So I had to put on my hat and travel through the quantum realm of madness to see Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and it turns out we already have a Shazam in the streets, and he's way more entertaining. The first movie is a decent silly movie. It's a coming-of-age story about a teenager who gets the body of an adult. I called it silly because every time the movie tries to write something more serious it fails miserably. Like Billy, who spent his life searching for his mother, committing crimes to find her address, only for a kid to find her for him because he played Watch Dogs, so he knows how to hack a federal database. He goes to his mom and she's like, "Yeah, I panicked when I lost you, but then the police officer put a blanket on you, so I guess I'll leave you there." It seems child abandonment is not a thing in the US, so no jail for you, no fine for you, not even a trial. No, nothing happened to her, which means no one can tell Billy the truth about his mother, which would stop him from committing these crimes. All this stupid writing just because they wanted their little payoff with the ball to make the viewers cry. You're telling me the police can't find the American mother of an American child in 2010? The US took my biometrics just to visit the country, but they have no information on Billy's mom, who isn't even in hiding. That's crazy. Anyway, that's what the movie does all the time. Serious ideas, poor execution, poor writing. Despite all this, it's sad to say that the first Shazam movie is still the best written film in the entire DC universe. Then comes the sequel. I'm of course talking about Black Adam, obviously. Black Adam was so bad I had to leave the house before the movie ended. At least they brought back the Falcon instead of whatever this is. So that's something.
It has been an extraordinary life, but always with one foot in the future. For the first time in 100 years, when I look ahead, I see nothing. And it's beautiful.
Wow, what an interesting idea that could have been explored in a separate film with Hawkman. Instead they made a movie where the bad guy we know nothing about fights the good guys we know nothing about, until the bad guy we know a little more about fights with the good guys we know a little more about against the new bad guy we know nothing about. It's visionary. They started the movie with a second act. I don't get why they originally wanted to make it a R-rated movie if it's supposed to be the enemy of a hero of a PG-13 movie. It's like, let's make Joker and then let's have him fight Captain Marvel. I also don't understand how Black Adam is supposed to fight Captain Sparkle Fingers if he's a good guy. They'll have to do a Batman v Superman and it will be stupid and contrived again. Anyway, I find it hilarious that Waller is here again to link the movie with the rest of the universe. The Waller Cinematic Universe, of course. Shazam 2 is the best DCU movie of the year because the next two will be a disaster. Given the low viewership of Fury of the Gods, let me provide a summary of the plot. The daughters of Atlas were the guardians of the Tree of Life, which grows golden apples that contain the seeds of life, which gave birth to their realm. The god Atlas stored all of his powers in a staff. Wizards took the staff and used it to steal the powers of 6 gods: the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the powers of Zeus, the valor of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. With the powers of the staff, the wizards sealed away the realm of the gods to cut it off from magic. Fast forward to 2019, Thundercrack broke the staff during the final epic battle, freeing the gods' realm from its prison, and with it, the daughters of Atlas. This is where Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods starts. The haters will say it's yet again a movie where the good guy made a mistake and is responsible for killing innocent people, exactly like the previous movie, or any hero movie in the last 10 years really, but I've never hated anything in my life, so I won't say that. I'm uncertain about the reasons why only 3 daughters were released from jail despite the liberation of an entire realm, which presumably contained numerous relatives of the gods, but again not a hater. The wizard mentions that the golden apple is in a secure location, i.e. on a random desk, and not somewhere under constant surveillance like the 7 deadly sins. The sisters reforge the staff, plant the golden apple in the stadium, and a large battle ensues. There's unicorns, Skittles, a dome, a dragon, and anyway, no one cares. Shazam Man fights one of the sisters. He dies until he doesn't anymore. The end. First off, I'm so tired of this DC universe and its use of arbitrary mythological concepts to make movies. We're at a point where I wish we had a prequel movie dedicated to exploring the gods and establishing a consistent set of rules for the universe to adhere to. Where are these gods coming from? Are there only gods on Earth? Why are they so pathetically weak that even Batman could kick their asses off? Which ones are dead and which ones are still alive? No one knows how this universe works, especially when they are throwing the word God every 5 seconds to talk about people who are not, like Wonder Woman and Superman. It's too hard to follow and the writers can make up any stupid story they want to justify their dumb plot points. This is the exact same issue the MCU is facing. The quantum world of madness is incomprehensible and the writers are unable to provide explanation, which is one of the reasons why all these movies are flopping. The general audience doesn't have time to read Wikipedia to understand what is going on. Shazam 2 is the worst version of the first movie. The humor and the tone are more consistent in the first one. The jokes in the second movie are so bad I could objectively explain why they're not funny, like the Wisdom of Solomon joke.
The wisdom of Solo Man?
You can't read? She said it 2 seconds ago.
The wisdom of Solomon,
You can't hear? Even after she corrected you, you still can't say it?
and it's pronounced Solomon.
Wisdom of Saruman.
You're Billy, you're not dumb or deaf or illiterate. She's holding your best friend, your brother hostage, and you're having fun? That's just not how you write jokes. The new spooky scene is inferior as well. There's not as much tension, not as much purpose behind the death, and it simply lacks creativity. The spooky scene in Shazam is very similar to the one in Spider-Man 2. This kind of violence is brutal, straight to the point, but isn't too much at the same time. The scene is shot to hide blood as much as possible, contrary to the scene in Black Panther where the guy slit her throat and instead of cutting away they show her bare neck in slow motion with no blood, which is just ridiculous and borderline insulting to people's intelligence. The death of the woman in Shazam 2 drags on a bit and isn't as satisfying. Decent chunks of the movie are a waste of time. The side quest to find the unicorns take an insane amount of screen time and is pretty much useless. We don't really see them fight with the unicorns or do anything cool with them, and at the end they just despawn and no one cares about it.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
Is this supposed to be the payoff of this whole subplot? I didn't get your Skittles reference, and even if I did, it's terrible. Saying the slogan of a candy isn't a payoff, and it doesn't even qualify as a joke. Eat fresh. How is that funny? The beginning of the movie is also a waste of time. It opens with a scene in a museum, followed by an accident on the bridge. That's 10 minutes of nothingness. The scene in the museum could have been reduced down to a minute instead of 5. People die and they take the staff. That's about it. We learn very little about the villains and their goals, and everything said here is explained again later anyway. The bridge scene is alright, I guess. It's superheroes superheroing, but it sets up the Philly fiascos and it's never explored. Do people love the gang or not? Is the police going after them? Are they still called the Philly fiascos at the end? And that's the most noticeable aspect of the first movie that was lost in the sequel. Shazam was refreshing in a way because it was a simple story about good and evil. The good guys are good, the bad guys are bad. They don't try to make excuses for it. I mean, the bullies are literally spitting on a baby.
Oh man, I just spit on a baby!
In a time where all villains are poor victims you should feel sorry about, Shazam is an exception. More than that, it also makes heroes great again. A hero is inspiring, selfless, beautiful, strong. No more body fat, no more glasses, no limping. It's just an idealized version of themselves and not a condemnation of their weaknesses or shortcomings as human beings. They are saving people and don't destroy the whole town. Fury of the Gods tries but mostly fails at maintaining these elements. One of the sisters is plain evil while the other two are not, and as with many aspiring complex antagonists, they are not afforded enough time and good writing to make it work. Besides the bridge scene, the gang is too stupid to act heroic most of the time. They could have defeated the sisters in 5 minutes, and instead they let the city get destroyed while contributing to the mess by pushing a dragon through a building. The gang is riding the unicorns like it's some kind of badass moment, when in reality the unicorns are the one doing everything. The sequel is basically a worse version of the first movie. It applies to everything, even to the characters. One major issue with the first movie was the inconsistency between how Billy and Power Boy behaved. Billy was a depressed and somewhat mature kid. Colonel Cheesesteak was cheerful and silly. His powers gave him a confidence boost, but it never explained why he acted that way. In Shazam 2, Billy's not sad anymore, which is good, but now he's 17, it's weird that he's still acting so silly.
Wisdom of Saruman.
This doesn't make you sound funny or cute, but idiotic. Billy as a kid is in the movie for about 10 seconds. Shazam 2 opens with Billy, who seems to be suffering from imposter syndrome, but instead of exploring the idea they make a joke and it's never mentioned again. The entire psychological angle doesn't actually matter because Billy and Maximum Voltage don't exhibit any signs of imposter syndrome. The whole point of this scene was to dump exposition to recap the first movie. Billy does have a condition, but it has nothing to do with the first scene. He has a fear of losing his new family. Everyone is growing up and doing their own thing and it scares him. Alright, that's a pretty interesting idea. What are they doing with it? Nothing. Instead of talking about his fear of abandonment, they conflate it with a fear of growing up. That's fine, Mary isn't a psychologist, but this is a completely new idea. And what are they doing with it? Nothing. They start talking about finding a job to contribute to the family because Billy is about to age out of the foster system, which is yet again a different idea. How can a hero afford their rent? Interesting question, but money isn't mentioned ever again. Imposter syndrome, abandonment issue, growing older, making money as a superhero. This whole scene is about throwing ideas on the wall and hoping the viewers will think it's deep.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom. Bye. Bye, Rosa.
So he's afraid of losing his family, but at the same time he doesn't want to call Rosa mom. Does he have mommy issues after his mother left him? Doesn't matter, Zachary Levi is back, so let's forget about it until it randomly pops up again at the end of the movie.
I love you, Mom.
Why is he calling her mom now? I mean, what changed? He just said it because he's probably going to die, right? Which means he already thought of her as his mom before the movie even started. That's not a huge payoff. Or are we supposed to accept that the line, "You'll never age out of your home," magically solved all of his traumas and issues? That was easy. When Billy's about to die, he says,
So when I found you guys, I had to hang on, and I've been hanging on too tight. I should have let you do your own thing.
"So it took you 90 minutes to talk about this again, and the only reason you did is because you're going to die." Saying it once at the beginning isn't a setup. Where was it in the movie?
Now it's time for you to fly.
No one is going to cry because it comes out of nowhere. The same goes for his death. It doesn't have much impact since he had very little screen time as a child. We're just sad because Freddy's sad. When Billy's brought back to life, he's not even the one coming out of the grave. It's so dumb. You didn't even say Shazam. I get they did it because a 17-year-old hitting on Wonder Woman is inappropriate, but the 17-year-old who looks like he's 40 is. But then he says he's 17, so they're not even trying to hide it. Thank God there was a pointless scene at the end with the gang, otherwise Billy's final appearance in the movie would have been as a corpse. Freddy is the main character of the movie. Zappy Man is the clown and Freddy the heart. There's two different movies here. The story of a kid and his struggles, his first love and his first loss, and the story of Red Cyclone who is doing a one-man show for 2 hours. It's almost like these two should have been the same person to add depth and nuance to their actions. Shazam 1 is about 2 kids who become friends as they try to balance their newfound responsibilities with their immaturity. In contrast, Shazam 2 features a normal kid and an adult superhero who both have their own adventures. I don't get why the idea of being a child in the body of a grown-up is split between 2 separate characters when the whole point of the human spark is to explore this conflict within the same person. There is nothing unique about this hero now. The other problem is that Billy is already too old. The idea of a young adult turning into an adult isn't a particularly exciting superpower. Thankfully, you have to be 21 to drink and enter some clubs in the US, so the jokes about adult privilege still work for one more movie. But it's pretty weak. Freddy and Captain Sparklefists should have been the same person. They did the Billy kid so dirty in this movie that it makes you wonder why they haven't killed him to let Freddy take his place. If Adam Brody can't carry a movie, I'm sure they could have made Freddy turn into Zachary Levi instead. The best character of not only this movie but of the entire cinematic universe is Mr. Grekel. He stops the bullies and then jokes about it with Freddy. I'm uncertain as to why he bothered intervening to stop them if he's just laughing about it, but doesn't matter. What's important is that this guy exists. 20 minutes later, during the confrontation between Freddy and the bad guys, he randomly pops up again. Sure, there was a bit of a noise when Freddy got punched, but the way he comes out is just too silly and convenient. And then he dies. He was introduced in the story, comes out of nowhere, and just dies. It's hilarious and pathetic at the same time. This scene had the potential to demonstrate that one of the sisters is evil, but the other two just stand there and watch him die. The Pedro kid is of course the second best character. He has a total of 5 lines across both movies and 3 of them are about his sexuality. It's the most overt token character I've ever seen. I'm sure he'll be a role model to all the young gay kids. I'm also certain they can't edit it out for China. I have one thing to say about Mary. Mary looks like Mary when transformed. That's stupid. The sisters are supposed to be a reference to the triple goddess archetype of the innocent maiden, the destructive mother, and the disagreeable crown. These kind of things always make me laugh. 99.9% of people don't get that reference, which would be fine if it wasn't so distracting to people who are not familiar with it. It just looks like 3 sisters with different ages, which is confusing. The crone looks older than any other god we've seen and the maiden acts like a stupid little girl who falls in love with a random dude even though she's 6,000 years old. The writers just patted themselves on the back because they know more than everyone else. Unfortunately, it's a movie, not a dick measuring contest. The villains in both movies are fighting for the power of Thunderbolt, not Billy himself, which makes the conflict not very involving. The powers of the sisters are not well defined and used randomly. The first one has the power of elements, the second the power of chaos, and the last one the power of access. Well, that doesn't mean anything. The third one can reshape the whole city. As you can see in these two shots, she permanently changed the shape of Philadelphia. It's never mentioned. Some buildings have to be in the river instead of bridges, and every road, pipe, and cable at the border of the city have been severed. Nope, not mentioned. I guess people are moving with the buildings, so not everybody died, but I feel like many people still would. Car crashes, heart attacks, patients in hospitals. In any case, that's an insane ability. The crone has telekinesis, but she doesn't use it, so I guess Mr. Philadelphia is stronger thanks to his super speed, but he doesn't really use it as well. I guess we have to make everyone stupid to have stakes. The mighty Cyclone stole the staff twice with his super speed, and instead of zapping the bad guys to remove their powers, he just gives it back by mistake. I guess we really do have to make everyone stupid to have stakes. Why doesn't he immediately take it back with super speed? Because everyone is stupid, don't you get it? Like the time when the sister attacked the dome instead of the building to collapse it. Or the time she turns the maiden human as a punishment instead of killing her, which she tries to do immediately after. The real bad guy is the pet dragon of the evil sister because it's the only actual threat, but not really because it turns out Freddy is immune to the dragon's magical shout. The lines of the sister are all terrible.
Turns out museums are fun. Let's have more of it.
And the line deliveries are awful.
We end this now!
However, the maiden does have the best line in the entire movie.
The most powerful thing about you is you.
It's so beautiful they had to use it twice.
The most powerful thing about you is you.
I don't know what to say. She's over 6,000 years old. I feel like she could come up with something a bit more poetic. I know about another hero who talks about the strongest part of himself.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
That sounds a bit better. But it's also a line about love, I hear you say. So what about that one?
Deep down, you may still be that same great kid you used to be. But it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
The same explicit and implicit ideas are expressed, it's just different words. Again, superhero fatigue doesn't exist. There's only stupid hero movie dialogue fatigue. This movie has too many characters. There are 3 villains, 6 heroes, a magician, and 2 parents. Flashbolt and Freddy make up for a large portion of the screen time, leaving the rest to fight over the scraps. So everyone is stupid, but they're not as stupid as the plans they come up with. The plan of Team Shazam is to not have one. It makes the movie lighthearted and fun, which is cool, until you realize that people are dying, which makes the jokes slightly less amusing. A bunch of kids having fun while everyone is dying. Great heroes. I guess Black Adam will be the good guy and Thunder King the evil one. They threw a goddess who they knew had powers into a regular jail, and she escaped right away. They never used Steve, an all-powerful pen capable of drafting a flawless strategy with 15 backup plans. They get the staff twice, they don't know what to do with it, and the only time they use it is to commit suicide. They lead the dragon to Philadelphia instead of any other random world. Instead of using their super speed to steal the staff directly, they first use it to play the violin as a distraction. I sure hope this violin won't be important for the next movie. They plan to defeat the sisters by dodging the attacks from the staff, and I quote, like dodgeball, but, and I quote again, Pedro sucks at dodgeball, so they abandoned the idea. Their new plan is to send a letter to the sister and pretend that they surrender. What trap did they set up for the sisters? None. Thunder Punch talks to the crone in the middle of Philadelphia and says,
I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. It's all about family.
And then they just fight and lose because, and I quote, you forgot about my family, and you forgot about mine. So that wasn't a plan. There's a plan to sneak in to steal the apple, and it's funny because there's the guy with a crutch and an old guy with knees that crack when he walks. So they're not very sneaky. Get it? Why are you not laughing? Alright. The really funny part is that if they hadn't stolen the apple, the sisters would have planted it in their realm. Now that's hilarious. Their last plan involves shrinking the dome so that Billy can kill himself by overloading the staff without destroying the whole city, instead of, I don't know, using the staff to remove her powers or punching her repeatedly in the face until she dies. The plan that I loved the most was Mary's. Don't fly up, you stupid idiot, it's a dragon. Also, there's a dome, where the hell are you going? Why don't you super speed away from here? Or better yet, super speed back to her realm instead of fighting in Philly. The wisdom of Solomon, everyone. The Shazam team is annoying because they're pretty old kids now who have been using their powers for 3 years, yet they are still incompetent morons. They rely on luck and for some reason they always find each other in the middle of nowhere, just like in the first movie. The Shazam family is just a bunch of losers. There's nothing funny or endearing about it. The Shazam team has stupid plans, but so do the sisters, that way the movie lasts 2 hours instead of 2 seconds. Their first plan is to steal the staff to get their powers back. The staff is broken and doesn't work, but it still gives them their powers back. For some reason they only take their powers and not the powers of all the gods. They fix the staff because the crone wants to take away the powers of the gang as they belong to her family. We only see 2 daughters because one of them is sneaking into the school to get closer to Freddy, who happens to be the only known friend of the Shockmaster. It turns out the 6,000 years old maiden actually falls in love with Freddy the loser in 5 minutes, which reminds me again why I despise love stories from Hollywood so much. Freddy loves her too, even though she deceived him, didn't say anything about the death of the professor, and may or may not have killed thousands of people. But no one cares about that, she's cool, whatever. When she finally confirms that Freddy knows the Sparkinator, the sisters immediately attack him. Why did they bother with this convoluted school plan when they could have just kidnapped him, started a fire, or killed random people on the streets to lure out Electroman? Who knows? In the opening scene they claim to be afraid of superheroes, which could have explained why they try to be careful, but they already killed a bunch of people in Greece. And so the human shockwave comes, but instead of zapping him or forcing him to bring them to the Rock of Eternity, they put a dome and kidnap Freddy. Why a dome? Now every superhero knows about them. Does it work against Superman? But you're not even in the dome. And why are you isolating Philadelphia? Who cares? It would have been cool if the dome prevented Billy from transforming into Sparky McSparkface, but that's not the case. More importantly, what was the point of deceiving Freddy if they were just going to kidnap him anyway? They torture Freddy just to get the name of Blazebolt, which is also silly. The whole school plan is dumb. Then comes the third plan, and this one is very confusing. Turns out the sisters are actually here for the Seed of Life, not to kill the Shazam family or take away their powers. To do so, the crone allowed herself to be captured to reach the Rock of Eternity and steal the golden apple conveniently sitting on a random desk. First of all, I don't believe she planned on getting captured. Mary says she did, but nothing gives it away. How could she have been certain of the location of the apple? And how could she have been sure they wouldn't have imprisoned her in a god-proof jail? Moreover, how could she have predicted that they would take her to the Rock of Eternity? Are you telling me her plan relied on assuming that the Shazam gang was stupid? That's stupid. But it gets even stupider. By stealing the apple, we learn that the doors in the Rock of Eternity are permanently linked to different worlds and that anyone can walk through them. One of the doors is directly linked to the God's realm. The sisters had access to the Rock of Eternity the whole time. This is insane. They could have stolen the apple, repaired the staff, and rebuilt their world without ever encountering the electric dynamo. And once they were done with that, they could have either attacked him or moved on with their lives. The whole movie falls apart because of this door. It's incredibly silly. And don't tell me the sisters were not aware of that door in their own temple. The first movie was more oriented towards kids and families, but the second one tries to appeal to a wider range of people, and as a result, the tone is all over the place. They should stop making Shazam movies because they are unable to market it to a wider audience. Instead, they should put him in a Batman movie as the funny and immature sidekick, but it probably won't work because Billy is already too old. The reboot of the DC universe has made this movie pretty much pointless, and it's not good enough to hold its own as an entertaining or well-written film. They had a huge opportunity with the reboot to create a crazy storyline involving Captain Wonders or the kids' death, but I guess the movie was already done when they made the announcement. James Gunn's statement is not to blame for the failure of this movie at the box office because most people don't even know about it, but it definitely didn't help. I forgot I was watching Shazam 2 while watching Shazam 2 because it's boring, inconsequential, too flawed, and the main character is not even Captain Philadelphia, but Freddy.